Okay. Welcome everyone. Good morning, everyone. Greetings. So, okay, welcome to today. Today is our demo day for our Africa Law and Emerging Technology Policy Hackathon. I think everyone knows my name already. I'm I am an associate professor in the Department of Private Law here at UP. And I don't want to talk too much without first giving my head of department the floor to give us an official word of welcome before I unveil the plan for today.
Dear Professor Okori, esteemed judges, who's also a judge online, and most importantly, our participating students. Some are here, some online. I just want to mention, Professor Okori will formally introduce our judges to the students just after I've completed my address here this morning. Now, my name is Anton van der Linde. I'm the head of the Department of Private Law. It gives me great pleasure in welcoming you to the Africa Law and Emerging Technologies Policy Hackathon of 2025. It's convened by my esteemed colleague, Professor Okori, under the auspices of the Data Science Law Lab. Now, I hope I'm not going to give too much away, but the hackathon aims to engage law and technology policy in addressing African challenges and activating African solutions. The hackathon serves as a platform for ideation and tooling on technologies policy for the benefit of the African continent and the world in general. It also provides a valuable opportunity for all of us today for collaboration in a transdisciplinary manner. Now, the identified theme of the policy hackathon, as I gather it from the documentation, is intellectual property, innovation, and technology. But there's a certain challenge that is posed to all the participants, and I found it very interesting. And the challenge posed to participants is to identify a problem facing or an opportunity for improvement in the interactions between the companies and Intellectual Property Commission and inventors or innovators, as it relates to, very importantly, sustainable innovation. But there's a second part and the third part. Secondly, the challenge is to develop a policy solution or a technical tool to address that challenge that you've identified, or to improve an existing tool. And then thirdly, to propose how the solution or tool could be deployed. Now, I congratulate all the participating students and teams for their submissions and their possible solutions they want to submit today. And I wish you well in your presentation today. I also want to congratulate Professor Okori with this initiative of hers. I thank the judges in advance. They will be introduced, as I said, by Professor Corey in due course. Lastly, I wish you all a very productive morning session, a very productive discussion, and hope to see you soon again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Belinda. So, we already know why we are here, and it's exciting to also then see the policy solutions that you've proposed, that you've come up with, and I think it's also, it makes me feel particularly happy with, you know, the dedication that you all put into it, and makes me proud of myself for believing in you and believing that it's possible that when we have multiple disciplines coming together to think about specific issues, that we would actually come up with solutions that strike at the very heart of society. So Professor Belinda has already sort of introduced or explained the challenge that you all had to work with. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm just going to then introduce our judges and do a bit of housekeeping in terms of how our presentations will go today. So over the next 90 minutes or so, you're going to be presenting your policy solutions and how it will be deployed. So usually the way that hackathons work, so hackathons obviously originated from the tech industry, right, where people then come together in one space and, you know, take one day or over the course of a weekend, for example, to dig into a particular problem and try to, you know, iron it out. And then just because you are all together in one place and ideating and brainstorming, you don't, you know, hold anything back. You just come up with solutions. You don't have to think about, does it work, does it not work? And then after you've done that, then you can now go back and now start thinking, zeroing in on your solutions, and now start thinking, how can it be deployed, how can it work, and then you take it from there. And it's known to have, you know, generated a lot of insights and, you know, solutions to specific problems. So we've sort of like flipped it in a way, in the sense that we are applying it to policy, where we're looking specifically for this year's challenge, where we're looking at the interactions between the South Africa's Companies and Intellectual Property Commission and how it deals with innovators and innovation and inventors as well. And it's important even more so now because of what we're seeing with artificial intelligence, for example, and thinking, okay, how is a government agency that is set up to interact with or deal with innovators, deal with inventions, how are they taking on board these innovations, how are they taking on board all these kinds of challenges, and then, you know, improving their interaction with inventors, and in that environment, then help innovation to thrive, not just in South Africa, but across Africa. So it's very, very it's exciting to now see how you all thought about it with your respective groups. Now, the thing also is that, like I said, with tech policy, with tech hackathons, you sit down, you ideate, then you go, and then you see how it works. But for you, you took the time over the course of, you know, weeks since February, working on your solutions, thinking about it. So you've had time to think about it, you've had time to see how it could be deployed and whether it makes sense. And it makes me also then very pleased that we have the caliber of judges that we have today. And I will introduce them shortly. So we have Ms. Tunelo Mashabela. So Tunelo is an expert. So you all know my students now. You know that the people people that I deal with are experts, that I don't deal with people who don't know, their stuff. So Melo is the founder and director of Shire Mashabela Attorneys. It's a boutique law firm specializing in intellectual property, corporate and commercial law. With over 18 years of experience, Melo became South Africa's first Black female patent attorney in 2009. He holds an LLM in intellectual property and technology law from American University in Washington and a BSc in electrical engineering from the University of Cape Town. She's a registered patent attorney, a fellow of the South African Institute of Intellectual Property Law, and she serves on various advisory boards. She's passionate about fostering innovation and IP awareness across Africa. We then have with us online Mr. Meluli Nkube, who has a background in academia, research and lecturing in physics. He holds a Master of Science in Physics and Master of Management in Innovation Management. He has been with the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission as a patent examiner in the field of physics and engineering since 2016. He has been actively involved in IP awareness and has given talks on various media platforms like radio and television on this subject matter, and a guest lecturer at various universities, including the University of Victoria, on patents and intellectual property in general. Thank you. And last but not least, we have Dr. Behu, who is here with us as well. He's an IP commercialization specialist at Barnard Inc. and a research associate here at the University of Victoria with our IP Center. He has more than 20 years experience in innovation and entrepreneurship management, as well as technology transfer. He successfully commercialized various technologies and assisted with the creation of various new ventures. He's a professional engineer and holds a PhD in law. So the judges have had the time to look at to assess your policy solutions and tools and things that you sent. So they are here today already with an idea, more than an idea, of your policy solutions. So we are now going to just look forward to see how you leaned into the challenge and how you collaborated with openness. Each presenter is going to have 5 minutes to present. I am also this day going to be very strict with time. So once you hear the timer ring, please stop talking. And one of the judges will then engage with you, ask you questions, and no long-winded answers. Please just go straight to the point so that we can go through our presentation and have time to finish on time and get on with the rest of the day. So please, once you hear the timer pause, just stop talking. The judges will give you feedback and round of that into 2 minutes for the judges' feedback. So the order of presentation, so that you can be ready and know when it's your time. So we'll start with Mudal, and then we will go to, where's Dunisani? Not here. So Mudal, then Dunisani is not here, so we'll do, where's Mohammed? So Mudal, Mohammed, followed by Zenzi, and then Elliot. Muledi is not here, so let's do this. So Mudal, Mohammed, Zenzi, Elliot, Sam, Cindy, Cindy Wade, where's the dog? Yeah, and then if we see Faith, then Faith and the rest of the people who are going to go last. So you know your order, and I don't need to interrupt anybody and ask you to then come here, right? So let's get started.
Intimidating platform, you will tell me when to start the process.
Starts.
Okay. Good morning, fellow judges, our esteemed guests, and those who are joining us on the virtual platform. Our presentation, before I get to the presentation, I would like to introduce myself and the team that has worked hard. It's Robuamagao. With me, I've got Babadwa, who I think she's probably watching on the visual platform, and Basil Sherinda, and two of our UP students, Kensani and Tony. So we have ventured on this topic. We were challenged by our professor on trying to come up with ideas that can assist the companies and intellectual property commission in terms of their engagement with innovators. And I would like to give my presentation to identify what are the policies that are currently there and the problems that we've identified. And one of the innovators within the space at which we were engaging on, and we'll try and propose a solution to that effect. So, in a nutshell, this article really is to engage on the points that we've already deliberated on and deploy solutions and tools. If we can go to the third slide. We can go to the other one. Yes. Initially, we basically stating as to what is the purpose of the commission. We know it's part of the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. Amongst that, they deal with the aspects of intellectual property. In relation to this subject, we will zoom into the aspects of patent. We just really go down in what the functions of this commission has, and through all that, we indicate that the function of the company is to really incorporate in the aspects of intellectual property rights, where we have your trademarks, patents, design, and copyright, and just to maintain that relationship, particularly the aspect at which we need to deal with is right to access to information. Who is included, who is excluded, and this research mainly is to deal with the issue as to how best can the commission improve and what tools that the commission can utilize. We understand that the commission has an agent called CIPRO, which is the office of the registration office of this company's intellectual copyright. And in particular, there are rules and regulations in that regard, dealing with the aspect of electronic communications. When we ventured into the website, we realized that just to get cut to the chase, we have realized that there's not much of access to those who are visually impaired. And we personally ventured into that platform to check what is the best way if one has access to these electronic devices at their fingertips to explore without being aided. And we noticed that we would have to go over voice overs, control. I struggled on my own to go through those things, but with the help of your research, where they indicate that developers should try and make sure that the designs include those who are visually impaired. And some of those ways is to make it easy. Once you've developed the website and this information that you've included there, bring those who are visually impaired and other people just to check if this is user-friendly. So in the nutshell, we're saying that as it currently stands, the web pages of SIPs, they are not really accessible and they're not inclusive, and they tend to exclude those who are visually impaired. and we know that that's a constitutional right in South Africa, right to access to information. Section 32 deals with that, and we also are part of the International Committee, and our constitution in Section 39 says we need to interpret these laws to include the international aspect there too. So in the nutshell, really, is just to say include those who are visually impaired, and there are ways and tools to do that. I mean, as it stands, the keyboards and the braille aspects, they're quite expensive. But if we can include sort of like a tour guide on audio, voice, where by accessing the web page, I should know what is there, what is the important information. These links, sometimes they don't really assist those who are visually impaired. So I understand that I'm constrained with time, but in the nutshell, that is what we seek to influence in terms of the commission, that they should consider those who are visually impaired and bring that aspect of inclusiveness, not exclusiveness. Is one of the examples there.
Okay.
On Subsea, the website is actually not that poor. My colleague, by the way, there's one of my colleagues sitting here, he's working on the Subsea website on a daily basis. And depending on from which perspective you're calling, there might be challenges, and visually impaired challenges there are. But I'm not convinced that it's the biggest challenge at Subsea. But yeah, otherwise, I agree that Subsea has some work to be done.
Thank you, Judge.
Is he free to go?
Yeah.
Mohammed. He's not here yet. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mohammed. Today I'll be presenting my topic, Enhancing Sustainable Innovation Through AI, a policy proposal for South Africa's patent system. Next slide, please. South Africa's patent registration system is currently facing a bottleneck. Delays in examination ranging from 2 to 5 years are not only stifling innovation, but also weakening the value of IP, especially in high-growth sectors such as green technology. In this context, artificial intelligence provides a useful tool. By embedding automated AI-driven pre-examination tools into our current system, we can drastically improve efficiency and improve patent quality. This reform is in line with the Just Energy Transition Framework as well as the Green Economy Strategy, and is in line with some international instruments such as the TRIPS Agreement and the Patent Cooperation Treaty. Next slide. In terms of the key challenges we face, South Africa's current system operates on a depository formalistic patent system. This means that patents are granted without any form of substantive examination. This creates legal uncertainty, reduces investor confidence, and leaves the system vulnerable to low-quality patents. Second, as mentioned before, due to the backlog of 2 to 5 years, there's a backlog at the CIPC, which is compounded by a shortage of skilled examiners and inadequate use of digital tools. Next slide, please. Section 25 of the Constitution guarantees the right to property, including intellectual property, and Section 34 guarantees the right to access to justice. The Patent Act remains effective in the sense that it does not accommodate AI or machine learning tools for examination. This system must evolve to support our commitment under TRIPS and Paris Conventions. Our policy and legislative frameworks have not evolved in tandem with global best practices. Several jurisdictions, including Japan, China, and the USA, have already begun implementing such tools in their examination systems. Next slide, please. Here at the proposal score, a machine learning pre-examination tool integrated directly into the CIPC portal, which will automate prior art searches across international databases, pre-assess novelty and the inventive step, and offer guidance to both applicants and examiners. This will improve patent quality and reduce administrative burden. The AI's transparency and consistency will enhance trust in the patent system, leading to more valuable patents as economic assets. The AI solution can also help identify green innovations for priority processing, which we will discuss on the next slide. Next slide, please. The Sustainability Fast Track Program introduces a fast track lane for sustainability-related patent applications. Applications qualifying will be examined between 6 to 12 months, a significant improvement. Applicants such as small businesses and universities will benefit from reduced filing fees. Examiners trained in sustainability issues will be assigned these cases to ensure appropriate evaluation. Additionally, integration with WIPO Green will boost international visibility and attract foreign direct investment, further supporting South Africa's climate and innovation goals. Next slide, please. In terms of financial modeling and cost analysis, it is projected to cost a total of 120 million over three years, including training, IT infrastructure, and testing. However, through public-private partnerships and research funding from universities, the Department of Science and Innovation, this program would become cost neutral by about year 4. Long-term savings estimated at around 200 million would come as a result of the reduced backlog, more efficient filing, and improved patent valuation. Next slide, please. In terms of the deployment strategy, phase 1 will focus on R&D, training the AI on South African and international patent databases in collaboration with universities and other stakeholders. Phase 2 initiates beta testing via the CIPC portal, focusing on sustainability-related applications. Phase 3 is the national rollout, opening access to all applicants and launching the SFTP. Phase 4 ensures ongoing optimization, improving through continuous learning and expansion to cover sectors like healthcare, agriculture, and fintech. Next slide, please. This proposal calls for legislative reform. We recommend amendments to the Patent Act to authorize machine-assisted pre-examination tools and outline AI's evidentiary status in litigation. Importantly, stakeholder engagement is key. Innovators, legal experts, government, academia should all be consulted in this regard. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. In terms of the expected impact, a dramatic reduction in patent processing times, a significant improvement in patent quality and IP valuation, incentivized green innovation, boosted confidence in South Africa's innovation ecosystem, and an aligned IP system with global best practices and sustainability goals. Final slide, please. To conclude, our IP system cannot remain static while innovation accelerates around us. Through AI, we have the tools to reform patent examination in a way that's fair, fast, and future-proof. This proposal is cost-effective, constitutionally aligned, and ethically grounded. Let's act now to modernize our IP infrastructure, not just for economic growth, but for the people, the planet, and prosperity. Thank you very much.
Madly, we're waiting for your feedback.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for that. Quite interesting paper to read. I think quite detailed. But one feedback that stands out is that as much as some research has been done in this, I think the speaker failed to actually realize that timelines are an issue of of the act and regulations that govern that. For example, if it says 18 months to publication, that will not change even with AI. It will not suddenly be 3 months or anything less. It will still remain as it says. If it says maybe 2 years or so. So the current laws are probably the issue that maybe need to be addressed. I noticed some of the suggestions that the speaker was talking about are really not an issue unless the law is changed. Once the law is changed, or once the law affects those changes, things can happen. But AI is something welcome, although people to tread lightly on it. But yeah, I liked the paper, although except for the flaw in actually the understanding of the current laws and the regulations that specify timelines and time limits and all. Yeah, that's briefly what I can say.
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Zinzi Shalamu, and I am going to present quite a similar suggestion to my predecessor. So my group was a cohort of a doctor of chemistry who was also a fourth-year LLB at the Northwest University, a computer science student at the Northwest University as well, and a psychology student. So my deployment tool suggests the integration of artificial intelligence in the prior art search that patent attorneys and inventors have to do before they get their invention patented at SIPC. So I was able to, or rather my teammates was able to come up with some code that kind of actualizes this solution. It puts like a picture to what I'm trying to propose. So I have a recording of the interface that is going to show what I'm suggesting. So this is the interface. Can you please pause it now?
Okay. Have I paused it? No. I don't know how to pause it, or I don't.
Please try again.
It keeps playing. Just continue. I don't know what to do.
Maybe the space bar. Sometimes it works. As a pause.
No, it hasn't. I don't know what else to do. Sorry.
Okay, so what I had envisioned with the solution is that inventors or patent attorneys would effectively have to take in the drawings or the solution and basically upload it onto the system, and then the system would basically analyze everything in the prior art.
You can pause now. Sorry.
Okay. So patent search AI. So here it basically says you have to upload your documents, everything that you are trying to get patented, and then it's gonna do a whole search and it's gonna cross-reference your suggestion or your proposed invention with every other invention of a similar nature in every other database within the country and across the world, and then it's going to give you your results. And then please play along with it. So this system was basically the files that were inserted premised primarily on like the medical field, and that's why it's curved computer monitor. And so it's going to show you that what you are suggesting, like your proposed invention, has likely already been patented, right? And it's going to give you a percentage of how similar yours is to another one. There's like a 98% match over there, and it's gonna show you which one it's similar to. So these are the claims here, and then this is the abstract, and it's gonna show you that it's already been patented in the US and it's already been granted, right? And then the video goes on a bit more, and then if your proposed invention hasn't already been patented, it's going to say your idea may be novel, it may be novel. But you might want to refine your search parameters in order for it to dig a bit more deeper. So then it's doing it now. So then the considerations that come with the solution is data concerns, because this thing would have to have access to global databases, right? And so it's very important in the South African context for it to be compatible with the Protection of Personal Information Act and Cyber Security Act, so that everything can happen within the bounds of the law, everything can be compliant from a data perspective to a commercial perspective, right? Another consideration was the reliability of the outputs that come from the system. And it's very important to make sure that the data that goes into the system is very comprehensive, so that the results aren't biased. They aren't showing results from a specific region or results from a specific country. So it's very important to have a very comprehensive data set that is fed into this AI system. Another consideration is job displacement concerns. So this suggestion, it doesn't seek to replace the role of patent attorneys. It seeks to really enhance their roles, because they have to do the comparison between what an inventor wants to do and what's already in the prior art search. So this suggestion is basically going to speed up that process of prior art search by giving you a more detailed analysis of the proposed invention and what's in the prior art search.
Thank you.
Is it messages?
It's Melody.
Yeah.
Melody, do you have any feedback for the presenter?
It's one thing that came to my mind time and again, I think, is this: with AI, there is what we call continuous learning. And with continuous learning, there is a high risk, because inventions, ideally, you need to have the priority, the first person to bring it in, and then you get that monopoly. So with AI, you throw those things into your AI machine, whatever, to check what those things are there or not, anything else. It might tell you, yeah, no, it's not there, or it's there. But eventually, the moment you go to filing or to do anything else, anybody else later, when they search through the prosecution of that application, it might come to bite people. So policy suggestions or tools like this can really be problematic, particularly from that aspect. And as much as, yes, we get it. It's AI. It's really revolutionizing how we do things. I fail to find how this solution can really be what was the right word I'm looking for. It's how I mean, it can be deployed and the relevancy to our problems in South Africa. It might really give us a lot of challenges as concerning with the laws that are there. And yeah, that's my thoughts.
Elliot. Can start.
Good morning, judges and fellow participants. My name is Anand Elijah Eliud Mutangadura, and today I'll be presenting the policy idea titled The Inclusive Intellectual Property Reform for Sustainable Innovation. Next slide, please. The challenge. Within South Africa, many eco-friendly innovators, especially those who come from disadvantaged communities, face difficulties with protecting their ideas through intellectual property law. This issue hinders both green innovation as well as the sustainable development for the nation's economy. As such, it cannot be ignored that the company's intellectual property commission, CIPC, can play a key role in resolving this problem. Currently, the CIPC's system does not focus on sustainable innovation directly. Moreover, these systems are difficult for the young people, people from townships or rural-based, and women inventors to access such systems. This solution effectively hinders South Africa from achieving the sustainable development goals. Next slide, please. The solution. The solution proposed has three main parts. The first is fast-tracking of sustainable innovation patents. This would speed up the patent approvals for eco-friendly inventions. Secondly, the creation of eco-IP subsidy. This would lower the cost for young township-based and women innovators to encourages more participation. Thirdly, community outreach initiatives. This involves providing training and support for innovators by creating partnerships with local universities, IP law firms, and innovation hubs. Next slide, please. How it works. The plan would ideally begin with the pilot project in Gauteng and Western Cape. In this stage, the CIPC staff would need to receive further training in interacting with substantive. In this stage, the CIPC staff would need to receive further training in assessing patent applications. In addition, we'll further have to engage with legal volunteers willing to work for free and promote the geographical innovation networks and media channels. Over time, these changes will hopefully become embedded within the nation's IP system. Next slide, please. The impact. This reform has the goal of unlocking the vast potential for green innovation in South Africa, which should increase the patents filing from underrepresented groups, in addition to aiding in the development of eco-friendly technologies. This initiative could position SA as a leader in sustainable intellectual property policy across Africa. Next slide, please. In conclusion, the inclusive intellectual property reform for sustainable innovation is a simple yet bold and impactful step towards a greener and more sustainable future. Thank you for your time.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation. So I see where you're coming from, but so I'm not sure if it's a misunderstanding, especially when and I've seen with a couple of submissions where there's a talk of there's a need to fast track the granting of patents. As if there's sort of like a delay. I mean, I'm talking from the practical point of view, and I think Mehluli can confirm in that South Africa is not yet at that point where we are examining patents. And South Africa, there isn't that delay of with regard to the granting of patents. Like he has already said, if we're saying a patent is going to be granted in 18 months, it's just legislation. There isn't any, I wouldn't know of anyone who would say that, my patent has been pending for a number of years. So I think, hence I'm saying either there could be a misunderstanding, especially when you're saying the fast tracking of, you said sustainable the fast tracking of those patents. We don't have that problem currently. However, I liked your idea of where you're saying, you spoke about eco IP, costs. Again, I would also say that you need to look at, when you do the research, the filing of a patent is 60 rand and 590. So the bulk is obviously at the attorneys. So when you then come up with that solution, I would like to hear, how are you going to engage the attorneys to reduce the fees, because it's not the CIPC. It's 590 to obtain a patent at the CIPC. But you need a patent attorney, which the patent attorney is in the private sector. So how are you going to, to engage or to ensure that patent attorney gets to collaborate or to buy into what you're proposing? But yeah, other than that, I think it is a good suggestions. But I would just like you to do a little bit of more research in order to back it up. Thank you.
Do you have, what's your response to that? I'm putting you on the spot, but what's your response?
It's more along, my suggestion was more along the lines of discerning whether or not the patent application is for sustainable innovation or just a general innovation. And then from there, hopefully that's about my 2 cents.
So my thing would then be, what makes up the fees that patent attorneys charge? So I think you should start from there to say, okay, if you're going to let's say collaborate with patent attorneys in terms of thinking, okay, your fees is what is contributing to the high costs, for example, of filing patents, and then what would be your, did I say, like your value proposition to them? Because you're going to be telling them you need to reduce your fees. So what is in it for them? And that would then stem from you understanding why do they charge the fees that they do, right? So what is it, like, why? What is what makes up the fees? Why is patent attorney A charging this and patent attorney B is charging this? And why would it make sense for an inventor or whoever is filing for a patent to approach a particular patent attorney to then file a patent for them?
Yeah, can I also add something? I don't know if you guys are aware, there is an inventor assistance program, which is a collaboration between WIPO and the CIPC is also involved. But then again, the challenge there is that we as patent attorneys have to volunteer. So meaning that it might not be, or it's not able to cover everybody, especially from a rural places, or it could be how do we get that information to the rural as well as the women, the people who are marginalized? How do we get that? Because if you're on that program, I'm able to draft a patent for free. But again, it's about how does that information get to the people? Because some of the people that we have assisted are people that have the knowledge, but probably the people that need it are not getting it, and that's where us as patent attorneys, contribute and assist with the filing for free.
Say incentives.
Yeah.
Incentives for the incentives.
Yeah, you must come up with those incentives.
Absolutely.
The suggestions.
Thank you very much.
Good day, I'm Samantha Whelan, and today I will walk you through the area of improvement that I have identified at CIPC and specifically relate this to sustainable innovation. Next slide, please. CIPC plays a central role in South Africa's IP system by granting rights. However, it operates under a depository system, meaning CIPC simply checks whether the formalities are complied with. Unlike in jurisdictions with rigorous IP systems, CIPC doesn't verify whether a patent truly meets the requirements set out under Section 25(1) of the Patents Act. This only happens when a patent is challenged in court, effectively making our courts the substantive examiners. The Department of Trade, Industry and Competition acknowledged that the lack of substantive examinations and searches reduces the security of patents and fails to serve the public interest, and in 2018 it introduced the Intellectual Property Policy of South Africa Phase 1, which has a main goal to move towards a system that introduces and includes substantive examinations. Despite this policy shift, no substantive examinations have been introduced. It's now 7 years later, and the likely reason for this stagnation is the failure to accurately address how these examinations would be funded. Next slide, please. Initially, the proposed substantive examinations will apply only to inventions that contribute to sustainable innovation. Sustainable innovation refers to inventions that advance the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These goals aim to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Unfortunately, global progress on these goals is far behind schedule, with only 17% on track to be achieved by 2030. Intellectual property rights play a critical role in advancing these goals. By granting legal protection, IP systems encourage inventors to develop solutions that directly address the Sustainable Development Goals, whether it's clean energy, food security, or sustainable agriculture. Next slide, please. The proposed implementation strategy will be funded through two distinct revenue streams to ensure financial sustainability. First, a self-funding model will be established, and second, the strategy will pursue project-based funding from the African Union. It's critical to note that this strategy is not designed to shift costs onto inventors. The goal is to maintain accessibility, especially for South African inventors, by avoiding additional financial burdens and that could make patent protection unaffordable. Next slide, please. The self-funding model will be financed directly by CIPC, which currently generates an annual cash surplus of approximately 86.3 million rand. This 86.3 million will be invested into a professionally managed unit trust investment. The investment's objective will be capital preservation and returns above inflation. From these returns, an estimated 3.84 million will be needed annually to cover the salaries of 8 substantive examiners, training, IT infrastructure, and future scaling of the examination project. The success of the project will be measured by an increase in high-quality patents, especially in the area of sustainable innovation, without depleting the capital investment in the unit trust investment. If successful, CIPC can inject further capital into the investment to enhance growth and support hiring of additional examiners. Next slide, please. CIPC, as a South African entity, qualifies as a national of an AU member state and is therefore eligible to apply for African Union project-based grants. This aligns with the AU's Agenda 2063, which shares key priorities with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals that this policy initiative seeks to support. It is proposed that CIPC apply to the AU Research Grant Programme, which funds initiatives that advance science, technology, and innovation for sustainable development. This creates a strong case for supporting substantive examinations in South Africa. By combining AU grants with the self-funding investment model, the strategy aims to reduce reliance on the investments in the initial rollout phase. This approach protects capital and maximizes long-term investment returns, which will enable future expansion and ensuring stability, even in times of market volatility. Thank you.
Samantha, thank you for that. I've got some comments starting with sustainability. So it's always very important in whatever sector you operate in. Sustainability is always critical, and you've addressed that point. On the funding model, quite interesting, and Tumelo just mentioned how cheap it actually is to file a patent. So it's 590 Rand, and your patent attorney will charge you another 20,000, so it's disproportionate. But there is some merits in SIPC actually increasing those fees. If there are disadvantaged people or people that can motivate to subsidize, that's a different topic. But unless SIPC increases those fees, they will never be sustainable and never be able to actually start with this substantive search, which is the underlying problem in South Africa. We've seen that so many times. People, in fact, when I advise my clients, what we do is we immediately file in the UK or in a country where the substantive search is done. Why? Because if you speak with inventors or with investors, they disregard South Africa as a filing country. So yes, you addressed, you need to sort out funding to be sustainable, and the AU, the African Union approach is also great. Just be in mind that they've got the ARIPO organization already, ARIPO and
ORP.
So there must be alignment there. But otherwise, yeah, I like your approach.
Can I just address, I did consider increasing the fees.
Yeah.
Because someone did say to me that CIPC hasn't increased their fees in like 30 years.
Exactly.
Something like that.
Yeah,
but then I thought, like, just to get the initial program running, CIPC already has a cash surplus of 86.3 million.
Yeah.
That we can see through that if the program will run and be able to work. Yeah. And then after the initial phase, then maybe increasing the fees to increase capital and maybe then employ more examiners.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a consideration.
Okay. Just on that, it's interesting how SIPC works. Counterfeit goods. So counterfeit goods can be infringement on patents, trademarks, copyright, design, whatever rights they are protecting. And the efforts that SIPC is putting into counterfeit goods, which is the overarching protection of intellectual property and generating some funding there, is already sort of in place. Not really, but they're really working in proactively protecting our intellectual property. But yeah, the fees should be increased. I concur.
Thank you.
My name is Luke Shatani, and me and my team, we came up with the idea of all the improvements that we saw that CIP which is the compliances challenges for small medium enterprises. The problem, next slide please. Next slide please. Next slide. The issue that we came across was the increase of deregistration of companies and innovators. This has caused a difficulty for SMEC to comply with the laws and regulation governed by the CIPC. This has also, the impact is that it has affected sustainability and growth of small enterprise disproportionately to the large companies. Here, what we looked at is the small enterprises. We were comparing small enterprises with the large corporates, you Pick n Pay and etc. Next slide, please. This, the importance of this compliances contributes to job creation, economic growth, improved standard of living, but there is a challenge that they are facing, which is to comply with the regulations and keeping up with the changes. These changes include the tax law and IP law. The problem that they face is the capacity that is burdensome to companies, which is safety. Next slide, please. Compliances challenges, which is ensuring the constant compliances, which is time consuming, more especially when we look at small enterprises. Owners may lack critical skills, which is the critical skills can be accounting, taxation, or legal skills. Also, some of compliances function is costly as well. But the consequences of this is that these companies face a deregistration, vulnerability of intellectual property, loss of income, and livelihood. Next slide, please. The solution we came up with was that to create a user-friendly and accessible guidelines, develop a training program to inform entrepreneurs on the importance of regulations, compliances, equip SMEC with affordable access to legal and tax service, offer collective community network to support the SMEs, improve subsidy or fee reduction for innovators to assist with registration, affordable software package to assist with tax. In conclusion, this will lower the administrative burden of the SMEC. SMEC to owners can navigate the regulation landscape with confidence. Innovators can register, protect, and grow their businesses, minimize the number of deregistration of the SMEC due to non-compliances.
Thank you so much, Cindy. So I liked the idea, especially with regard to coming up with a proactive solution. And apparently, you worked on the website, and as well as Metlhodi working for CIPC. But personally, what I've seen with this problem is that I saw the CIPC reacting to the deregistration. We were never given information about how to stop the deregistration. But then subsequent to the deregistration, it was the only time that I actually saw the CIPC bombarding people with information on LinkedIn on how to solve that. So like you were saying, I like the fact that they need to be proactive. And your idea of saying that you need to teach or show the small business, how must we submit this annual return? I know the information is there, but you need to be, there is a room for improvement, and that's what you're saying, so that we don't have companies that have been deregistered. But what I would like you to look into is, you're talking about deregistration of the company. I would like you to consider what happens to that IP that they have filed once this company is deregistered. Because personally, I know I have a small company with some friends. Our company is deregistered, but it's taken me forever to go and resolve it. So I have the information. I can only assume how the other small business or people that are in probably in rural areas, how are they actually dealing with that? If I've seen the information, but I have still not, dealt with it. So you can only assume how it's probably worse with other people. So I would like you to look at what happens to that IP, that small business whose company is now deregistered. What happens to that particular IP? Something for you to consider. But also for one point that, and I think I would like you to do a little bit of research with regard to fees, guys. CIPC is not expensive. I'm not gonna lie. I think submission of an annual return, and I stand to be corrected. If it's not 100 rand, it's 150. You can say expense is relative, but I still think it's not. How much are they going to reduce it by? If you say there must be a fee reduction. So I think one of the speakers said CIPC has not increased their fees in a number of decades. So it cannot be the fees. It's like you've rightfully pointed out is the lack of education. Expecting small business to understand about the tax, to understand about it's relatively probably easy if you go on the website, but I think, like you said, there could be improvements on in making sure that they are proactive and we don't actually end up with companies being deregistered. But thank you so much for that.
Melanie, do you have anything to add on these fees? Do you want to increase the CIPC? What is CIPC thinking?
I think my colleague, fellow judge, has said it well. CIPC hasn't increased its fees in a long time. So the day it increases, it's inevitable. It's gonna increase it at some point. So talking of reducing fees, it's a bit going on the opposite direction. That's all.
The increase of fees, it's also people, what they don't realize is that it's actually going to affect us as South Africans. So when you look at the filings from the CIPC, a lot of people who are filing patents are actually foreign nationals. So when we get to a point where now we have examination, and now instead of filing a patent for 30,000 rand or 25,000 rand, you're gonna file a patent for 150,000 because there's examination. So this thing of the increase of fees, my problem is it's actually going to affect. It's actually going to continue with the misalignment in that we have a number of patents in South Africa, but these patents are not filed by South Africans. So the more we're gonna increase the fees, actually, it's us South Africans who are going to be disadvantaged in the long run. Yes.
Would you think like a solution would be if you're a South African national, South African registered company, you have like a lower fee than if you're an international company? Or do you think those internationals will just open a company here?
So I'm not certain if that's going to work because we have TRIPS where all member countries are supposed to be treated similar, the same. However, I think we could actually introducing maybe a fee for small business. I think that could, but to say, because you are in the international, then it forces us that we are now, not in compliance with TRIPS. So it's hence I'm saying it requires a bit of a balance, but the bottom line is that it is us, the small businesses in South Africa, that are going to be impacted with an increase of the fees even of the examination, not your, yeah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My policy solution is focused around overcoming low-quality patent application approvals through the implementation of stringent computer systems and research and development. Next slide, please. The problem which I have identified pertains to the current South African registration system, which adopts a depository system which is focused on establishing the validity of the patent application with close consideration of the content of the patent application. Now, essentially, this neglects to examine the quality of the product which is being applied for, and essentially establishing the compliance with the three patent requirements: novelty, utility, and the inventive step. Next slide, please. Now, the objectives which I hope for this policy solution to achieve is the incorporation of information sciences into the CIPC patent examination system for accurate identification of deserving patent applications, to eradicate patent applications by paper and to essentially fully digitalize the process, to prevent the approval of low quality and similar inventions, to encourage the National Advisory Council of Innovation to partner with the CIPC and to facilitate the distribution of the annual science, technology, and innovation reports to inventors, and to integrate research and development into the CIPC for technological and innovative gap identification. Next slide, please. Now, the three solutions which I have identified are all interrelated. Next slide, please. And the first one consists of implementing information sciences for patent examinations. Now, I'll define information sciences as defined by Loudon, and I quote, a set of interrelated components that collect, process, store, and distribute information to support decision-making and control in an organization. Now, essentially, the implementation of information sciences will lead to the creation of a computer system, a stringent computer system with databases consisting of multiple repositories which have been divided according to the sectors encompassed in South Africa. And essentially, the approved patent applications will be stored within these repositories and will be used as a standard to measure the patent applications against. Now, upon the completion of comparing the standard, a report will be provided to the patent applicant with details of the patentability of their application. Next slide, please. The implementation of research and development. Research and development is the collection of information to assist the creation of new products. Now, essentially, research and development assists with identifying the gaps within the innovative sector, and therefore, the incorporation of the science, technology, and innovation reports will provide an overview of the absence of the innovation within South Africa. Next slide, please. Partnership with the CIPC. I encourage the CIPC to partner with the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition and the National Advisory Council on Innovation, and essentially to host conferences and to facilitate the presentation of the science, technology, innovation reports, which are presented by the National Advisory Council of Innovation. Now, essentially, the CTI reports provide details pertaining to CTI human resources, innovation in manufacturing, digital competitiveness, and the strengths and weaknesses within the national system. Now, the partnership with the CIPC will promote networking, will promote accessibility to resources and information pertaining to funding system and pertaining to funding. Next slide, please. So the sustainable innovation which I hope to achieve through this policy innovation is the creation of technologies which are necessary for specific sectors to essentially attract international investors and economic growth. Now, considering the fact that we are in the fourth industrial revolution, this will essentially encourage, and I encourage more online patent applications and discourage applications by paper. And lastly, it is to provide more access to promote more access to inventors, to essentially help inventors to assist in combating the contributions. Thank you.
I believe this one is mine.
Yes.
Interesting though. I think in the paper and in the presentation, there are a few changes that have been substantial changes that have seem to have been made. But to start with, the problem statement was defined well, but then from there, I think I would like to say that the presenter, there were some things, material facts probably that they did not know, did not have. For example, CIPC is under the DTIC, so it reports to the DTIC. So there is no partnership per se, but CIPC is under the DTIC. So any partnerships that are there is just by effect of reporting the structures that are there, because eventually whatever CIPC does is straight to the DTIC. I was curious, in some places there were issues of like CIPC having a research to do some research on some of these things. My question was, how are you fully understanding of the nature of the role that CIPC plays as a regulator? So now if it's as a regulator and then now it incorporates research into all this, now I think there is a blurring of lines and a possibility you will have customers coming again now to complain that probably their needs are not met or the timelines are stretched and so forth. I'm talking all across the board of CIPC. So I was curious as to how do you envisage that kind of research? Then lastly, at some point you talked about incorporating, it was still under this incorporating session development with talking about chatbots, something like that. Those gaps on redressing the lack of innovation, I was still not, I couldn't understand where you're going to. And lastly, most of these things, talk of these reports that you talk about from Science Department of Water, Science, Technology and Innovation, STI, all those reports are available publicly. They are available to the public all the time. Right now, we can go online and we can find those reports. So I think maybe sometimes it's the lack of knowledge of which probably it is shown right now that you think that they need to be available, but they are already available. So the public at large needs to know some of those things that, no, okay, this I can find online, I can get this online, and it's already there at their disposal. So I think maybe let me pause there for now. Yeah, I think that's what I can speak to this presentation.
No, Siviwe, you're not done. You did not answer the question. How, in terms of research, what were you thinking? You said, he said you mentioned, you said there needs to be, CIPC needs to do more work in terms of research and development. And the question was, how do you envisage this research and development? How do you envisage it happening?
Well, essentially, I meant to say that I think CIPC should make more information, more research and development available to innovators, more specifically the gaps within the innovator sector within South Africa. So I feel like if inventors have access to that information, they're able to be guided in a sense into the direction of inventing or essentially filling in those gaps and creating inventions that will fill in those gaps within South Africa, within the innovative sector.
Okay. Which goes back again to what I was saying, that most of this information that we talk about time and again, it is readily available to the public. I think it's just a question of, I think this is coming up second or third time now, that such information is there for the public, but it's a question of how to access it. Especially for small, mid to medium enterprises, individual innovators, maybe they might not have that access or the capabilities, but all that, most of it is available online. It's a question of maybe trying to find out ways of how best can we get this information known out there in the public, that, okay, if you want this information, you go to this place. If you want this information, you go to this place, and it is readily available. I think I get you, but yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Is this it? Yeah. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lisa Lanzavia, and I'm going to be presenting my work on the policy for sustainable intellectual property education and incentives for artists specifically. Next slide. So the creative industries is an incredibly important component of growth within South Africa. They play a very big role in sustainable development and innovation, and it's therefore also crucial to ensure IP rights protection for these artists that do play this fundamental role. A key goal of the intellectual property policy of the Republic of South Africa Phase 1 is to support the promotion of South African arts and culture, and also to drive the supporting of artists in the process. And I think therefore we have a bit of a responsibility then to ensure that artists are getting the support and awareness that they need. So a key issue and the key problem identified was the education and awareness regarding IP protection when it comes to the registration thereof, the protection thereof for artists specifically. And therefore this policy aims to encourage sustainable innovation within the creative arts and also ensure that artists are in fact aware at all of what they can do in order to protect themselves and their creations. So next slide please. The two key issues were lack of awareness and barriers to access. So lack of awareness, artists simply don't know that their stuff can be protected. They have no idea how copyright law works. They have never even heard of the notion of industrial design, and that's actually something that can be protected. They don't know. They go through 4-year degrees and never actually have a solid understanding of that. And that's a key issue here for me, is the fact that we need to raise awareness for the artists. Barriers to access. So costly, we've spoken about patents, I'm not going to go in there, and it's mostly attorney fees, and if you mention an attorney to an artist, they already start crying and want to run away because they don't know what to do with that. And another barrier of access is just purely not understanding the process. So they don't have access to the registration because they are unaware of how the processes actually work. So the purpose of this policy, next slide please, is to promote sustainable innovation specifically, and to simplify the IP registration for sustainable innovation, and then also to enhance educational initiatives for artists. Next slide please. So in order to do that, we can look at something like incentives for green innovation, looking at financial incentives for use of renewable energy supplies, the use of environmentally friendly material, reduction in carbon footprint in the creation of arts and designs. Also going to look at simplified stakeholder partnerships as well. How can we partner with key people within the industry? For example, the Green Tourism Incentive Program, which is already a government program looking at tourism and how it can look at renewable energies and water. How can we partner that with the arts? Because the arts is quite a central component of the tourism industry at large. That brings me to the second point, which is the simplified intellectual property registration for sustainable innovation. So there, the idea was to make it very visual. So there's a lot of information on the CIPC website. It's actually quite laid out nicely, but making it a little less wordy, even that's one of those ironic, there's a lot of information, but the access to it, and especially if we're looking at creatives and the way in which they like to get access, making something like a mobile app is something that could work for that. And then the really important one, well, all of them are important, but the one I'm most excited about is the educational incentives for artists, looking at curriculum development, looking at workshops, looking at digital platforms for education, and looking at even including elements like mobile apps that can foster that promotion of wanting people to know more so that they actually enjoy the education process. All right, so the implementation of the policy, next slide. Here we're going to have to look at the key stakeholders, CIPC, very fundamental within that. Educational bodies such as the CHE Council of Higher Education, CETA, QCTO as well, they will be central in actually ensuring that it filters into the curriculum development, because I think it needs to be a part of curriculum development within the creative arts, that they know that these are the processes and these are the steps that we have to take. Another stakeholder is national government, Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, Department of Tourism as well, Department of Arts and Culture, and nothing would ever be complete with a stakeholder if we do not mention the private sector as well, including elements such as tax breaks for private sector, investments within renewable, sustainable approaches to the arts. The arts always looking for investment. The arts always looking for people to invest in them and create and help them create and be more creative and entertaining, I suppose. And then we're also looking at resources, and this is financial resources, looking from a budgetary perspective from government as well as private sector, and also looking at the human resources and the tech resources that we need. If we're starting to talk about mobile development apps, those are going to be necessary. Next slide, please. So in order to monitor and evaluate this policy, the key thing is going to be the growth in ideation.
I think this one is yours, Melody, is it?
Yes, yes. If I may say this, I think the presentation is very good. I wish in the paper that was articulated so well, because somehow in the paper, I kept asking myself a number of questions that, okay, yes, you are telling me this. For example, your problem statement, straightforward, articulated so well. And then in the case where now the promotion, the simplification of registration, and then the incentivization of that, there hasn't been much of, I'm still found trying to figure out, okay, so how do you intend to this? How are we going to do this? Because it's true, you've put across issues that need to be addressed, but I don't think you've done the justice well. Unfortunately, also time on your presentation was, but on promoting, simplifying, and incentivizing, I don't think you really sold it out to me to say, oh yes, I think this can work. Otherwise, the problem statement is perfect, it's good, it shows, okay, you realize you've done your work to see where the gaps are, but we really need to find a solution to that. So, but a problem without a solution, it's not complete. So that's all that I can say.
Thank you.
Sell a solution.
Sell the solution.
Yes.
Well, I think to sell the solution would be to get input from the stakeholders to do these workshops, to do the training sessions, to do working with universities, because I think that's a big thing. Is in the arts and culture, the CHE, one of their big mandates is to work on sustainability going forward. And I think those partnerships are really important, because we've got these 4-year degrees in fine arts. Even if I look at my first undergrad was drama and film, it's within the arts, and not once did any of these things ever cross my mind. So really working with the educational bodies to ensure that they are implementing this within curriculum development, within the assessor training, within the training of our educators, so that we can start it at the ground level. Because I think a lot of these incentives also that we've mentioned today are amazing, but people are not aware of them. And I think one of the ways we can do that is by building it into a curriculum. Even within the schools, we can start already building it into an arts and culture curriculum, where we're starting to have to do a lot more interdisciplinary stuff, what we learn in the English class. This should kind of even just at least articulate to that, so that people are aware of their protections and what they have available to them. I have a big problem with, I've got lots of words, so if I have too little space to say, that I don't get to all the points, because I like to say all of the words, and then sometimes my time does run out, and my papers that I'm allowed to include also runs out.
Thank you. So, yes.
Thank you.
So just to comment, the pain point, the problem is bigger than what you think. Creative artists are, it's really a big problem in South Africa. That's number one. So you've identified every pain point. And then 2 stakeholders that you should add to your list is Dalru and some.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
I didn't see that.
No, that's a very good point. They should absolutely be.
Yeah, I can tell you horror stories.
Yeah,
So,
I've tried to work with Summer as well. It's
You know,
it's not
so-
simple. Thank you. Yes.
Can I just also just say something? I think I like the idea of the education, and you are like Farah said, especially for the artists, it's extremely important. And the idea of adding that educational element to become part of the curriculum. I would love, and I mean, I'm coming from a point of not much knowledge about how curriculums are being created. I would love for you maybe to find out, who is the right person, because it's not about just the CIPC, because you're changing, you're changing the entire, and I know there are countries, I think it's China, and where IP is actually, it's not something that you hear about it in your adult life. They start the kids at the beginning, and that means that those kids are actually being taught. And although you're talking about the artists, but for me, I say IP affects everyone, every aspect. That is why it's important for the kids from primary and high school to be knowing about IP. By the time you get to varsity, because that's how we're actually going to create sustainable jobs. If people, because now I always hear people, we're talking about we need jobs, but if you look at all the jobs or the SMEs that are being formed, they're not sustainable. And people, is because people do not understand what are we talking about when you say my car wash is not sustainable. Do you understand what I'm just giving an example, but it's all because of that knowledge. But we need to start from the beginning. But I would like to hear how our curriculum actually developed, and what is the process, how long does it take? Yeah.
So I can jump in quickly because I work with, I'm an educator myself, this is my day job. And it's a very cumbersome process because you go through the Council of Higher Education, it's through all your curriculums, etc., etc. It's a very, very long process, and I think that's what kind of hinders a little bit of the things, because it takes about 2 years to get a program approved. So now the thing, especially with the rapid advancements we've got right now, if I submit a program now and I can only start teaching that in 2028, by the time I hit 2028, the landscape is different. So, but that's a whole bigger educational issue that needs to be fast-tracked. But I'm thinking now, just to comment on what you've been saying, my own personal experience, because we've got a very well thought out professional development curriculum that teaches them how, because I work in a creative arts college, so it's animators, it's musicians, it's filmmakers, and they've got a curriculum that's built on how do you create a small business, how do you promote your business, etc., etc. But I am the first one, I think, as far as I've recognized, that said, hey, let's look at IP as well, because again, it wasn't even something that people were aware of, and because that's what I'm doing now here, it's such an interesting thing for me. But it should take more than just one person who finds IP law important to just change it. So I think it's a bigger taking hands with Council of Higher Education, really making it very transdisciplinary as far as we can, because the law sometimes feels so separate, but it touches our everyday life, no matter what we do, as we walk, where we go, it's everywhere, but we kind of feel like the law is separate. So if they hear something like, oh, we need to include IP law in a curriculum, oh, why, these guys aren't going to be lawyers, but they need to know how to protect themselves and how to build their businesses.
I think short courses would be a very bridging, kind of solution, in the sense that they don't take the lengthy process that you have with, like formal education curriculum. Because if you had short courses, it would just take, people who are interested to develop it and then work out whether the only thing that you then have to think about is who is going to pay for it. So is it going to be subsidized, and by who, and all that. But that's compared to the length of process for normal or regular curriculum development, that's a smaller problem, because the more you find more people who are willing to actually pass the knowledge across, then it's so much more easier. I think that would be something to one key takeaway from this, in terms of thinking, okay, UP has community curricular engagement, which is different from your usual community engagement. This one is involving specific communities in the curriculum, and then have that curriculum plus community engagement. So it might be something that would be useful to then say, okay, let's even start with one community, one high school, one primary school somewhere, and run through a set of programs and see how that goes, and then see how to scale that over time. Well, thank you, Lisa.
Good morning, everyone. This is my policy proposal to anti examination, the CIPC, sustainable development and innovation. Here, my previous presenters as well might have touched on it and motivated a bit, but this was my research so far. So now, introducing the policy. Now, my main goal of the policy, is to propose this to the CIPC in South Africa. How can we manage the fruitful examination process, and the main focus is on encouraging sustainable innovation through effective patent processing. Now, the problems which are currently relevant, it's a problem of capacity or skilled patent examiners. Now, the few patent examiners, there are few patent examiners, and this causes a delay in further to inaccurate examinations. So, probably we need properly skilled examiners at the moment. The last time they said they are 80 staff, which is one of the articles that I found on the internet, that there were only 18 trained examiners since 2018. But so far, we don't know. These 18 trained examiners were on a program of 2 years so that they can be properly trained. And yeah, I don't know, we have not had any other new examiners since then. Now, the other problem is that we have high application costs. Now, for one to get a patent, to be examined by a patent practitioner, it can cost between 15 to 30,000 rand. And then now, this is one of the problems for those ones who are upcoming innovators, that they've got innovative positions, which is innovative. They want to bring it out there, but looking at the fees, if you maybe get to the internet to check how much is to move such an application, they find that it's very expensive for them. And then the official fee is probably is 590 cents, and as the previous presenters have stated. Now, comparing it to this next slide, sorry. Comparing it to the international countries, it takes 15 months to examine a patent in Japan, 5 years in Brazil. Now, South Africa, we should aim to improve the examination time, although it takes between 1 year or 2 to 3 years for final patents to be approved or to be granted. Faster granting of these patents could be make CIPC more attractive out there. Now, the proposed solution, the CIPC is to increase capacity, train another 18 examiners, if not more, and make sure that there is a certain budget for it. Now, the other one should be the retention strategy on employees. If you don't pay your employees well, they're not going to last in your company. But if there will be improved benefits to retain skilled staff, that could make the CIPC to always have capacity, other than to always train. Was the first process that we took in 2018. It took like 2 years just to have the properly skilled professionals. So now, if maybe there are a lot of benefits for them to stay there, the CIPC efficiency target. It says we aim for faster patent approval in between 9 and 12 months, specifically those which promote sustainable, specifically those applications which are for or promote sustainable innovations, or those patents which are for help with the sustainable, which help with sustainability. Now, the prioritization of patents, the sustainability innovation focus should be prioritization of patents that
Thank you, Dumisani. So I'm a little bit concerned because and probably it touches on a lot of the people that have already presented. We do not have an examination. We are not examining patents in South Africa. And for me, it talks to, did we do the research? No? We are not examining patents in South Africa. In South Africa, a patent can be granted in 6 months. Once I file a patent and I've submitted all of my forms, and the CIPC accepts it, and I publish my application. I mean, we've seen, and Mthuli can confirm, there was one that was granted, wasn't it in days or something, Mthuli? But the bottom line that a patent can be granted as quick as possible, as long as all formalities have been met. And that is why I'm saying I'm just, especially with examination, a lot of you guys are talking about the examination and the delay, in which, yes, in Brazil, actually a patent can take 5 to 9 years before a patent is granted. And these are the things, again, when people are calling for examination of patents, these are things that we're actually going to meet, which are things we are not experiencing probably at the moment. But another thing with regard to examiners, you are correct that the CIPC did appoint 18 examiners. But my problem is when you say that, unskilled examiners is not really correct. The CIPC has been going through a vigorous process of training these examiners so that by the time we get to examination, we have people that are trained. I think another thing is where, you're saying, okay, now talking to your policy, your solution, which is you're basically suggesting employing more people and retaining people. I really think that, I would actually suggest that you try to do a little bit of more research, because when you're saying employing people, I've already said that we have the 18 that we are training, but we are not examining as yet. So I think I'm not certain if your solutions, or even the problem actually, I don't think it's the problem that we are actually currently experiencing, because I think, for example, I can ask you when you say we need a retention strategy. Did you do research to find out whether people have left? And
no, I might have not done it if people have left, but my solution is that for future purposes. So as you've mentioned, it might not be a one thesis patent filing company now, but in future, just in case, there's a lot of patents filing that needs more examination and stuff. Those ones which are currently there should not be.
Okay. So I'm going to suggest that, and I like when you say for future purposes. So I'm going to suggest that it might not be for this one, but an interesting angle would be, it takes 9 years for Brazil to grant a patent. It takes even, Brazil is the worst off. It takes longer for even Japan and the others that you've pointed there. So I would suggest that how does South Africa, as we go into examination, how do we make sure that we don't find ourselves as a country where it takes 6 years for a patent to be granted? You understand? What are the things that we can do? I don't think it's just appointing more people, but maybe find out why does it make Brazil or the US or Japan for them to take that long in granting the patent? How can we become proactive so that by the time examination comes, we don't find ourselves with patents that are pending for 5 years?
I think I can possibly stick to what I'm saying, so that when I believe that the foundation should be proper, and everything that we do currently or when we are starting should be improved. It should promote efficiency. Like even if we get to have a lot of those applications, even from outside or inside our country, at the moment everything should be efficient, fast. Even when it comes to the future, we will have those problems which Brazil and Japan are currently having. So it's in the long run, we will not be experiencing such problems.
Okay, thank you.
So you need to do the work in terms of the research, because the 18 examiners that CIPC currently has, they are not in prison. If they want to leave, they can leave, right? Yeah. So what you want is for the system for an efficient system to be in place, and for you to propose an efficient system, you have to do the research. You have to put in the work in terms of finding out other people that have been doing it before you. What are their pain points? Why are they succeeding? Why are they failing? Then on that basis, you are then able to say, if we do this, it will work because of so and so, because these people did it, it worked for them. Our conditions, our context is similar. Therefore, if we did that, it will work. If we do this, it won't work because these people they are similar to us in terms of context or whatever, and they are doing it this way and it's not working. So if there's anything that we know that this cannot work. So for example, the US has more access to more infrastructure. It's a developed country. So what is working for them might not work here, even though the solution is fantastic for them. But because they have the resources to carry it through, that might be a huge reason why it's working for them. So if you're bringing that kind of solution to South Africa or to any African country, you're going to first also think about the context. Do we have the infrastructure, the resources to adopt this kind of solution and expect it to work? Then you look at a country like Brazil, which is, in terms of context, similar to South Africa. They are both developing countries. And then you ask yourself, why does it take 9 years? You find out, you do the research. They would have done research because it's a problem. And so they would have been thinking about it and trying to find out, why is it working? Why is it not working? What are we doing wrong? And all that. And then you find out, so that if you are proposing a solution, then it's a solution that is informed by research. You know what you're talking about, as opposed to just saying we are just going the US way, it's bound to work, or as opposed to just saying we need an efficient system. Yes, we need an efficient system. That's a no-brainer. The more thing, the task, the work here is to now find out what has worked, and that's really what research is about. That you then come up with findings based on that you are curious to say, why is this working here? Why is this not working here? So from our, and this is not just to you, it's to everyone. From our conversations and in class for the IGZ 802 module, one of the things that we've highlighted or we've emphasized has always been that South Africa has a depository patent system, right? So, and we then pointed out, okay, these are the problems presented by the fact that this is a depository system. It creates a situation where maybe the quality of the patent can be somehow problematic because nobody is checking whether, you know, it meets the eligibility criteria or not, right? But at the end of the day, you then cannot then jump from that to say the thing we need the most now in this country is to move from a depository system to a substantive examination system because of the problems of the depository system. You need to then say, yes, we have a depository system. It has its challenges. We need to have, you know, patents of better quality or whatever granted in the country. And one of the key ways to achieve that is through a substantive examination system. No problem. But then, how do you have an examination system that is sustainable, that will address, you know, like Melo pointed out, the challenges that you already see with countries that are already doing the whole substantive examination? Because it doesn't make sense for us to then say, let us start substantive examination so that we can have better quality patent, and it fails, or it's not working, or it increases the fees and we didn't think about, you know, the backlog. So that's the point of this whole conversation. But thank you for your presentation. And so we've come to the end of the presentations today. Thank you so much, everyone, for your input. No, she didn't. So I'm going to give the judges a minute or two if they have remarks, comments, broad thoughts. So should I start with, let me start with you,
I'll start, yeah. So the substantial examination problem is a big problem. As I've said, it's not a subsidy problem, it's an investor problem. The investors who are interested in South African technology are not taking our system seriously. SIPS is trying to address that with that, those 18 people that have been appointed. That's a project that works with WIPO. And in my experience, many of those are, there's a retention problem. So that's something that I need to confirm. Those people are very marketable in the patent attorney field. I've seen that they get first-hand experience. The second problem that was correctly identified is how to solve examination. So AI might be an option. One presenter mentioned that technology moves so fast that in 2 years' time it might be a reality. So that I would say yes. We should look into AI to do examination, but it's very technical. So from a legal perspective, there will be questions, yes or no, can it be substantiated in court? And then the third other problem that was correctly identified was the creative artists, especially when they're young, when they're still not famous. Those artists are so brutally exploited by agents and so forth, be they graphic designers or musicians, whatever. And I've seen the worst of all. So there, that's a problem correctly identified. Otherwise, yeah, thank you. The presentations were well prepared, so that's commendable. Yeah, it's always important to take these things serious. We can pick up that you've prepared or not prepared. So.
Thank you,
Okay, no, thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. I think indeed the presentations were very interesting. Just two comments from my side. Again, with substantive examination, I hear what my colleague Gerald is saying with regard to, we need investors, to attract investors, we need to be dishing out valid patents. And I think one of you said that, now we are using the courts as sort of, the people who are actually adjudicating or performing the substantive examination. However, we also need to balance and ask ourselves, what are we trying to achieve as well as a country? And I've already said we have quite a number of patents. Most of our patents are filed by foreigners. And we are trying to improve the economy and the jobs in the country. And if we're going to, the introduction of substantive examination is going to result in cost. And we should be trying to ask ourselves, how is that going to impact us, the small businesses that we are trying to encourage to file patents? Hence, I'm saying I think the gap is going to increase even more if you bring it home. So that's just one thing, to try to find the balance. And I'm not saying we don't need examined patents, but I'm just saying we also need to be careful. It's similar with AI in that in introducing that AI, and I like what Mehluli was saying, that if AI is going to be conducting prior art searches, tomorrow that your patent is actually invalid because now that the information is out there. So it's in introducing it, we also need to find a way to find a balance, because I must say I'm scared of AI. But I think another thing is what I liked, or what I would like, especially, remember I said examination is not only going to increase the cost, it's going to increase the length within which a patent is going to be granted. So we should be looking at how are we going to be proactive? How are we not going to be like Brazil, as an example, in making sure that patents are granted in 5 years? Because as a country, as a developing country, we can't afford that. We can't have small business having to wait for 5 years for a patent to be granted. So I would like for us to look into that and come up with solutions on how to become proactive. But other than that, thank you so much. I think everyone prepared. It was interesting. I read the policies. It was very interesting, and thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you. Melody?
Thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this. Every time when you read something new and you start to think deeper beyond that. Just my parting shots to the researchers that have been writing these policies. I think the research was well, but I think in some instances I feel like it was not really that well done, because you notice that people in academia, like especially in this line of work, with patents, whatever, with IP, things are moving quite fast. So if you quote something from 2013, chances are something already has happened in between. So I think up-to-date information, you need to quote up-to-date, find more information. And secondly, written work versus presentations. Presentations, when you're out there, you can try to sell the idea, but when I'm reading your work, it's always better that you sell it out there. When I'm reading it, there's nobody else to explain to me what do you mean by that. So you really need to put it out there such that I'm sold out from reading it. I don't have questions. It makes sense to me. And then lastly, on the side of my comments generally, this is indeed a balancing act, as my colleagues have been saying. We really need to find a way of how we can actually address this situation in South Africa, because as much as they've just said, we need this, but we just can't just blindly jump into it. We need to find checks and balances on how it will work specifically for us as South Africa. We cannot just take an Indian recipe or a Brazilian recipe and throw it in here. It will choke us. We need to find. So I think this is an interesting space where we can start to decide and think about this, and now engage each other and debate on the best possible ways. And I believe from these platforms, it can be echoed all the way to our lawmakers, and eventually something good can come up, because as of right now, sooner or later, the bill is a patent bill is going to be published. It needs to be rigorously, engaged, and we challenge it. And I think it starts from here. And I'm excited that we are starting to have those kind of conversations. And tomorrow, this can really change our our society and our laws. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mary, and thank you so much to all our judges. Thank you for taking the time to engage with the policy papers, with the presentations as well. I think that the comments that you've made are very insightful, and I think that that feedback is the quality of the feedback is the reason why you're experts in this field, and the reason why you know you came to mind in terms of who would be the most appropriate caliber of judges to assess the policy presentations. I've already said at the beginning that I'm also proud of the work that each of you have put in. I think that the point of feedback also is for you to see where you need to do better. One of the things with the postgraduate program generally, but specifically here at UP, is that the expectation is that your thinking is much more elevated than what you would find, for example, in the undergraduate program. And also that's even why that's also part of the reason why curriculum changes and developments take time anywhere, including in South Africa, because you have to think about learning outcomes and think about, because learning is supposed to change you, right? It changes you. You learn and then you become better, and hopefully not worse, right? And so you are supposed to elevate your thinking, but not just thinking, not just talking, but application. So there's a lot more application, especially at this level, than you would find in in the undergraduate program, for example. And that's the reason why we do these things, so that you don't just think in a linear manner where you're just thinking, okay, this is a problem. We just dive in and start looking for solution and start thinking what has worked elsewhere. Let's just, copy and paste. But instead, you need to then say, okay, there's a problem. This is a possible solution. Then you start interrogating the solution to ask yourself, like, what would I put in the mix, and it will change things, and it will make this thing better than the way I'm just thinking about it. So there's a lot of presentations that we heard that focuses on the, depository versus substantive examination issue. And what I'm sure that you would have gained or gotten, one of the things that you have gotten from the feedback from the judges, is that the solution is beyond just implementing substantive examination. You need to think about how is it going to work? What will it change? How will people react to how it's going to change? You heard from Tumelo, for example, that it's going to increase fees, right? And you have to think about, okay, I do this, it increases fees, then what? Will it now create another problem that we now have to think about, solving? So those are, some of the things that you need to think about, that you need to, grapple with. And I also say this because we'll soon be getting into exams, right? And you need to do, you need to do more. You need to sell your idea. Whoever is reading your work, in this case, me as your examiner, right, needs to see that you've thought about things that you should be thinking about, and that you've thought about them not just in a manner to say, I thought about this, but because it's too difficult, for example, or it requires some complex thinking, you decide that I'll just mention it and then I'll just, leave the work. You're not leaving the work for anybody. The work is yours to do. So, but thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to all our judges. I really, really personally appreciate your time and expertise and resources that you've put into this. Thank you so much. When I have the marks from the judges, I will then announce who the top 3 persons are, and they would get prizes. And like I said earlier, there's an emerging scholars conference, intellectual property conference happening in Cape Town in July. So the winner or the first person will attend that conference, funded from my research funding. So, and I'm saying this so that you also take on board the feedback that you receive from the judges, both not the feedback directed at your own solution, but also the feedback that you heard when other people presented, and work on your paper further, so that when you present it there, they won't tell you the same thing the judges told you, which would then mean that you did not learn anything from this. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.